Sabi niya, huwag daw tayong malungkot pag babalik sa trabaho. Akala mo naman alam yung pinagdadaanan ng ordinaryong Pilipino.
Isang influencer napakabastos. Dahil ba naman bigla ang cake sa isang service ko sa resto? Ay nako. Alam niyo din ba, yung bagong resolution ng Paychang, matulog ng mahaba, wag lang 5 hours kaloka.
Alam mo, suot naglabas na din ang vlog tungkol sa kapalaran. Hindi na rin alam kung ano ang magiging kapalaran ng Pilipinas sa sobrang mahal ng mga bilihin ngayon.
Gulay! Gulay kayo dyan!
Wait, ano ba yung tinda mo?
Ano ako dito ang sari-saring gulay? Talagang sibuyas.
Kano naman yung sibuyas mo, pero
700 per kilo.
ko, sobrang mahal naman, pang breadstick. Ba? Ito mo, pang breadstick.
Itong itlog, bale 280 yung isang tray.
Grabe, ang mahal na yan.
Mga mas, alam niyo ba kung bakit halang sibuyas at ito ngayon?
Hindi. Bakit?
Bakit? Ganito kasi yan.
Let's assume you live in a small town where nobody sells onions. In other words, zero supply. Now let's also assume that the people who live there would love to put onions in their foods. In other words, there's a decent demand for onions. As we can see, there is currently an imbalance. People want onions, but there are no sellers. Mang Berting understands this and starts selling onions at the beginning. His profit will be huge because lots of people want onions and he's the only one who has them. As time passes, however, someone will notice how well Mang Berting is doing and start selling onions yourself. This increases the supply of onions and diminishes Mang Berting profit potential. The more people start selling onions, the more supply there will be. If too many people end up selling onions, but the demand doesn't increase, as well there will be too much supply and some of them will go out of business. If there's only one thing you should learn in economics, it's supply and demand. Let's use the market for onions to help us understand this concept. Let's start by looking at buyers and how they respond to a change in price. If the change price goes up for onions, then some buyers will not buy onions. Instead, buyers will buy alternative for onions that is cheaper. The point is, they're going to buy less onions. And if the price goes down for onions, then people are going to buy more. This is called the law of demand. When the price goes up, people buy less. When the price goes down, people buy more. Now let's think about sellers like the farmer in the farmer's market. If the price of onions goes up, then that farmer will make more profit. So we'll have an incentive to produce more onions. If the price goes down, then he's not going to want to produce onions. That's called the law of supply. Now let's put supply and demand together. If the price is really high, then producers would like to produce a lot of onions, but consumers won't want to buy them. This mismatch is called the surplus. And if the price goes down for onions, then buyers want to buy a whole lot, but producers won't have incentive and they'll produce very little. At the end, you have mismatch, but this one's called a shortage. There's only one price where the quantity that buyers want to buy is exactly equal to the quantity that sellers want to sell. And it's right here where supply equals demand. The price is called the equilibrium price. And the quantity is called the equilibrium quantity. In fact, the prices for all sort of stuff change all the time. External forces can shift both the supply and demand curves, changing the equilibrium price and quantity. For example, let's assume that the demand and supply of onions in post-rainy season is high. What happens in summer? Will the change in weather affect buyers' demand or producers' supply? Hot temperatures make it harder to grow onions. This is because at all possible prices, there'd be fewer onions produced. Supply can decrease, supply can increase. Demand can decrease or demand can increase. Some people might want to talk about the price being fair or right. Well, that all depends on your point of view. The buyer always considers a low price to be a very fair price, while the seller considers it unfair and vice versa. In general, economists don't really like to push opinions about prices. Voluntary exchange suggests that the price is there for a reason. For example, assume the demand for onions inexplicably falls, so the demand curve shifts to the left and the equilibrium price and quantity fall. Farmers might go to the government for assistance, but most economists would argue there's no reason to bail them out. The market's spoken. Onions are so over. Furthermore, if the government helps the farmer by giving them a subsidy, it would be putting resources towards something that society doesn't value. That would be beneficial.
Ayun ang dahilan kung bakit mahal ang sibuyas at itim ngayon.
Pati pa ang mga gulay, mahal. Ano ka ba, Marietta? May pag-asa ka pa para mahalin.
Ano? Bibili ba kayo? Binismisan na lang.
Saka na lang, Fergie.